Hey everybody, welcome back. In this project video, we're going to make a bridal bouquet wrap. Many of y'all may have had some people call or some customers call requesting one of these. I've seen a lot of you guys make them. They've been pretty popular the last 3 or 4 years. It's just something unique that the bride can use for photos to hold the bouquet that she holds obviously at the wedding, but it's really neat because they can put their brand in there, maybe the first initial of the last name that they're taking, whatever they're doing. It's just a really unique item. And it looks really good, especially if it's kind of a Western wedding, kind of that kind of deal. It looks really nice, and there's just really an unlimited amount of artwork that you can put on here. Now, this is not a traditional bouquet. This is the closest thing I could get on short notice here in the shop. So I just stuck this in here just so that we had something to kind of visualize what this does. But basically, all it is just almost like a cuff, but it's straight. A lot of people make them in a complete solid cylinder. I tend to shape mine off the backside, as you can see there. I'll talk about that in the video as to why I do that when we go to braid this thing together. Makes it a lot easier. But this thing is, these things are really easy to make. You can get as elaborate as you want or be as simple as you want. In this video, we're gonna stay pretty simple just so that we can kind of show you the mechanics as far as how these go together. Pretty self-explanatory, but they're a lot of fun. They're a good money maker, great use of your scrap, and a lot of room to do some artwork. So let's get started. Okay, so we've got our pattern here. This is just the shape that I like, but anyway, and these holes here, you can set this whole pattern up however you want to. I have it set up in the pattern pack. It's a little bit different, but it's gonna work just fine, and I'm probably gonna use the way I have it set up, the way I have it in the pattern pack. So kind of disregard how I have them here. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and just trace this out. This is just a piece of 9/10 ounce Herman Oak skirting leather. You could definitely use 5/6 ounce and line that with a 3/4 ounce if you want to. I think they work a little bit better if they're kind of a little bit heavier and a little stiff, just so that they don't collapse. So we'll go ahead and cut this out right quick, and then we'll get this tooled. These are really simple. There's not a whole lot of construction, so we'll go straight into tooling after we cut this out. All right, so we've got our piece here. I went ahead and put blue painter's tape on the back just to keep it from stretching. What we've got to do first is figure out our borders. And what I'm gonna do is, again, this is about the right hole spacing. I'm using a number 8 hole in this for our lacing. And so what I'm gonna do is just set my border about that far in so that I can make my border there and have room for our lace holes, and that's going to be about 5/8 of an inch. 5/8 of an inch from the end is going to be just about right. And so we'll go ahead and set our calipers here on this side. And we'll run us a line. Same on this side. And now my spacing around the rest of it is going to be just a normal border. If you're leaving room for stitching, you're going to want to be 3/16 or so, 1/4 inch to 3/16, or 5/16, I'm sorry, and that's about what that is. And so that'd be a nice border. If you stitch it, you got room. If you don't stitch it, it'll look good as well. That's just kind of my go-to spacing for a border. Okay, so we've got our border lines drawn in. And so this is our tooling window. This is where our tooling is going to go. Most of the time, the brides that are going to order a bouquet wrap kind of thing are going to be ones that are ranching families or Western, or they're going to have some type of brand that they're going to want on the wrap, or at very least maybe some initials or something like that. And so I like to run a center line down here, and then you can put your brand or whatever you're going to put in there. I'm not going to put a brand in this one. I'm just going to do a floral set for those that don't want to add a brand or initials. The bride just wants a nice floral. That's what we're going to do on this pattern. But in the pattern pack, there will be some that have a brand spacing in the middle. And that way, if you want to put a brand or initials or something like that, you can kind of tweak that pattern to make that work. But we'll go ahead and get this drawn. I'm not going to show all the tooling in this, but we will show the design and some of the tooling as we go, and we'll get this thing tooled right quick. Alright guys, so we've already done our antiquing. As you can see, we did our dye work. I went ahead and used a wine color dye. This was an Angelus dye, so it's an alcohol based dye. I really like the color. It's kind of a neat little reddish tone there, and I think it turned out nice. We did a two-tone job with that color, and then I went ahead and antiqued it. So now we're just going to pull our painter's tape off of this project. Alright, so we've got our painter's tape off, and now we're going to go ahead and sand, edge, and slick this thing. This thing is pretty much almost done. All we've got to do is do our edge work, and then we're going to fold this around. We'll punch our holes, fold this around, and lace it shut, and it's done. And so, like I said, there's not a whole lot to these. You've got more time in the tooling than you do anything else. And so I'm going to go ahead right now. We're going to go sand this, edge it, and slick it, dye our edges, and then we'll come back and we'll punch our holes, and I'll show you kind of how I do that. Okay, so I'm going to edge this piece with a number 3 edger. When you edge these, don't edge these side pieces here. And when you're sanding these, you want to make sure that you've got a nice straight sand job on there, and that way they meet up really nicely. So you want to make sure that it's nice and straight when you meet those together. So when we lace it, that thing laces up real nice and straight. But don't edge that. If you edge these sides here and you're trying to meet them together and lace them up, they're going to try to go over the top of one another, and it makes it kind of difficult. So don't ever edge that. Just edge the top and here, and then on the inside here and here. That's what we're going to do. Okay, so we've gotten our edges done and dyed and everything. They're all slick, they're dyed, they're ready to go. All we've got left to do now is just to punch the holes, and that way we can go ahead and lace this thing together. Now, I had an original hole pattern that I had put on my existing pattern, but I tightened it up just a little bit. Whatever size lace you're going to use for any kind of lace job, normally a good rule of thumb when you're deciding on your hole spacing and things is from the center of the hole. So if you go from center of hole to center of the next hole, that distance should be the width of your lace. So, and that's just a rule of thumb. You can fudge it either direction, but like for instance, we're going to use 3/8 inch lace here. So 3/8 of an inch is what we're going to do on the width of our lace. It's the same width that I would use on my saddle skirts and things like that. So basically, if we measure from the center of this first hole to the center of this next one, that distance is roughly 3/8 of an inch. That means that if you're going to use, say, a smaller lace like a 1/4 inch, then your holes would need to be a 1/4 inch apart. So obviously a number 8 hole, which is the one we're going to use here, it's a number 8 size hole, that's going to be too big. So you would have to go down in hole size. So usually a number 5 would work with that. Maybe even a number 3 or 4 might work for that. So you just got to kind of play with that anytime you're doing any kind of lacing. This is a number 8 size hole, and so just to give you an idea on size, that's a 1/4 inch hole. Okay, 1/4 inch diameter is what I'm going to use. That's what I always use with my 3/8 inch lace. It works good. It closes that hole up nicely when you're braiding it. It might not on this one because we're just going to do a lace job on here. We're not necessarily going to do a braid. And so, but anyway, that's kind of just a little rundown on how you figure that out. And I'll usually start in the middle and then space them out, and that'll tell me how many I need to get across this thing here. So I've already done the math. The pattern also has this whole pattern on there. If you do buy the pattern pack, it's already on there, so you don't have to figure all that out. But I figured I'd kind of fill you in a little bit on kind of where my mind is when I am doing anything laced and how I figure that out. So we'll just mark these off. Now, like I said, on my pattern, you won't have to worry about it, but on my pattern, I'm not using this side because they're just a little bit stretched out, and so I wanted to get them a little closer together. Okay, and so now we'll just punch all these holes. Alright, so there's our holes. I'm going to bring that around and we will do a little lacing on the back here and get this thing wrapped up. So let me go cut us a piece of lace. Alright, so many of y'all know, if you watch our Sun on Monday videos, we did get an MP4 skiver, so I'm going to show you something cool that I kind of figured out here. We're going to, I made a presser foot for mine that will allow me to skive my lace. So not necessarily on this project, I could very easily do this with the benchtop skiver that we have back there, but I wanted to show you kind of the versatility of this skiver and some of the opportunities that you can kind of get with one of these. And so I made this little foot. I didn't make the foot came with it. They gave you like 3 feet when you buy this machine, but I did modify the foot, and I'll take it off here in just a second and show you what I did. But I modified it so that it could pare down both sides of this lace. You've seen me do this in other videos where we pull it down on the bench skiver, the Osborne bench skiving tool, and then we'll go through the Hansen lace cutter and bevel our edges. It takes a little bit of time. We're going to use this, which will make that process a lot faster. As you can see there, it took off both outside parts, pared that down, and then left some good meat right there in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and tweak it down just a little bit more and see if I can get it. Takes a couple little times of some scrap just to get it just right, but as you can see, that did that way quicker than I can do on my bench skiver. And there we go. That's probably about right for this project. So now we'll run our whole length of lace through there. We'll stop and check it. It's looking pretty good. There's our lace, all paired, ready to go. Now we're ready to braid that thing. So I'll show you what I did to this foot, and it's fairly simple to do. It just takes a little time and a little trial and error here of filing on it, and I'm not a metal worker by any means. So if you guys got better tools out there than I do, you can probably do this a lot easier than I did. But as you can see on the foot that comes with it, you can see that it's just smooth. Okay, this one's arced just like the ball, and so it's going to do an even skive from left to right. This one here was arced like the ball too. No, this one was arced, I believe. It's a 25 millimeter. I believe that's millimeters. So it's a little narrower. It's not quite as long as this one. And you can buy all kinds of feet for these from Leather Machine Co. But I took this one and I filed out right down the middle, basically where I did not want it to skive, and left where I did want it to skive. And that's kind of pattern skiving or reverse skiving. They do this a lot on band knives, big band knife machines. You can create your skiving patterns. You basically skive the opposite like say on a candle back or a candle binder, or even a horn, you skive where you don't want it to skive on your pattern piece, and then when you put that on top of your cutout piece and run both of those together through your band knife, it takes some settings and all that and getting it all figured out, but once you do, when you run it through there, it'll skive everywhere you didn't, basically, and it'll do all of your hand skiving for you. That's pattern skiving. It's kind of an upper level thing, and most of us don't have band knives in our shops, but this is similar idea. And so basically we're skiving along the outer edge of this lace, but not skiving as much in the middle because of the way I modified that foot. And so that's just something to keep in mind. If you get one of these machines, you do have the option of doing that. I've heard of guys that have tons of these feet that are modified for specific applications, for specific things. And so that's far beyond my knowledge of them at this time, but that's just kind of one little trick that I wanted to show you with this little machine. And I don't know, if you ever get one, that'll give you an option to play with that. Okay, so we got our lace prepared. I added a 1/2 inch bag punch just right here on one end, and then the other end I just cut a long point onto that. And this is just going to help us kind of close this off. So what we're going to do here is just take our end, we're just going to go up. You can go top to bottom, bottom to top, whatever you want to do. This braid's going to look the same either way. Leave this a little long because we're going to catch it through one of these holes. But you don't want it too close to that first hole on this because you'll see that slot. Now you don't have to make a 1/2 inch bag slot. You could do just a simple hole, but I would still suggest putting it over the 3rd or 4th hole just so that that slot stays out of the way. So we're just going to leave it kind of kicked over there for now. Keep our lace straight with the grain facing outward, and we'll come around the outside and hook right there. And now we'll pull the end through the next hole. You can kind of pull both ends and make sure they're snug. And we'll go down here. And that's all I'm going to do on this one. Like I said, you can get a lot more complicated, but I'm just doing just what I would call whip lace. It's just going around. Now I'm going to get this tab with our hole in it, and I'm going to pull that nice and snug. It looks like I can almost go there. Tell you what I'm going to do is that's a little long, so I'm going to tighten it up just a little bit. Pull some of that up, just so I don't have so much excess in there. Because I would prefer this tab not coming all the way to the bottom. We just need it in here somewhere, and we'll catch it through one of the holes. I can go one more hole and then I'll have to catch that end tab. Now I'll pull this tab down nice and flat. I don't know if you can see it, but that tab is right there in this hole here. So when I come up through that bag punch we made and through this hole, and that's going to lock down that tab. It's hard to see, but if you can see inside there, I've got it locked down right there. So now we can just finish the braid. Make sure our edges are nice and straight. And now all we've got to do is end it. Now this is a bouquet wrap. It is not a piece of cowboy gear that's going to get used and abused and all that stuff. So the only thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go up underneath this last bit right here, and then clip it off. And then I'm going to pull it tight and everything, that way it's clenched down, and then I'm just going to clip it off. This thing will be on display for the rest of the bride's, you know, life or whatever. I'm sure it's going to be a keepsake. She's not going to carry it around town or carry it on a cattle drive or anything like that. It's just going to be for pictures. And so I don't have to get too crazy on closing this lace down. But as you can see, it's right there. I got it kind of up underneath that last braid. Pulling that a little bit, it's also going to pull up our corners here, get that lined out. And then I'll just reach in there with my side cutters, clip that off. And so that's what it looks like when it's done. But that's it, guys. That right there is a bouquet wrap. There's not a lot to them, as you can see. This is the way I do mine, just real simple. Doesn't take a lot of time, easy enough. All right, guys, so that's making a bouquet wrap. As you can tell, there's not a whole lot of work to it. You got way more time in the tooling than you do anything else. I know a lot of projects are like that, and we say that a lot, but this one's really like that. This one went together. Once they're tooled and dyed and everything, you can slap them together. You can do a dozen of these in probably an hour. Doesn't take much to braid them. Now, like I said a minute ago, if you want to, you could definitely do a complicated braid on the back. There's a lot of things you can do there. But as you saw in there, because I've got mine kind of cut away in the back, it makes it a lot easier to braid that. If you do a solid cylinder, especially if you make it a little longer than some of them do, then you're going to have a lot of trouble fighting that thing, trying to hit the holes that you need to be in as you're braiding this together or lacing this together like we did. So I suggest always kind of cut some of the way out the back. I think it looks nicer as well when the bouquet is in the bouquet wrap. I think it just looks a lot nicer there. But these things are really neat. Like I said, these are real popular. Like if you go to a little trade show deal or a little fair, if you just make 2 or 3 of these, have them on there with a little bouquet inside there, you will definitely attract ladies to the booth that are maybe getting married, that are interested in having something unique made for their wedding. The majority of these that you make, you're probably not going to sell a lot of them pre-made. It's probably going to be custom because it's for a wedding. And so everything for a wedding is very personalized. It's a very big event. And so they're probably going to want their brand on it. So I would not make, just my suggestion, I wouldn't make a dozen or 20 of these or something and take them to a show and expect to sell them all. You'll probably take that many orders, but they probably won't want one that doesn't have their brand or their initial on there, whatever it might be. This would fall under something that I would say is more of a custom ordered item. But try it in your area. If you go to if you're going to a bridal show, obviously, you're going to set up, if you're a leather worker that makes a lot of things for brides and things, then yeah, make a few of these up. But I would probably venture to say that vast majority of these are going to be custom. But great little item, great use of scrap leather. Make it out of any weight leather you want. Make them just plain with no tooling with exotics on there. That looks nice too. But again, I think the personalization is far more important when it comes to a wedding piece that's going to go into the wedding. Plus, this just makes a really cool keepsake for the bride. She's going to keep this forever. It'll probably be on display in her home or wherever she puts kind of that kind of keepsakes from that day. This will be an item that she'll always cherish and always have. So, and they make great wedding gifts. So if you've gotten invited to a wedding and you don't really know what to get the bride and groom, instead of just doing a gift card or cash, make them one of these. You'll really impress them. Something unique. Maybe hand it to the bride when you get there, or have somebody take it to her that day, or let her know before the wedding, so that way she can use it during the wedding. It's kind of cool. So, but we do have a pattern pack available for this. It's got 6 different tooling patterns in there. This pattern pack is a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, so you can download the digital file no matter where you are on the globe. If you want to print this out, just be sure and print this out 100% or actual size. On the first page, we do have a 1-inch square for scaling, so you can check that and make sure it's right. But yeah, we are offering a printed version as well. If you would rather us just mail you the printed version, we can do that. If you want the digital version, then go ahead and grab this, print it off, no postage, no weight. Pretty good pattern. Like I said, there's not a lot to it, but it's got some pretty good floral ones. There's 6 different styles in there. Some of them I did with like a embroidery kind of you know, a little circle there with an initial. There's two of them that have room for brands, and then there's one that, you know, two of them that don't really have any room. You could put the brand right on top of the tooling if you wanted to, or make space or whatever. But good pattern pack if you're interested in getting that and making some of these, or come up with your own design. It's not that difficult. There's not a lot to them. Pretty simple. Pretty simple concept. So, but I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see y'all in the next project video.